Johnny Majors Classic, and I when I think back to Johnny Majors, I think of a guy that really salvaged his reputation. It's a column that I'm going to write for Off the Hook Sports later today, and you can check it out online. I think of a guy that salvaged his reputation, Amanda, because there's a good bit, and you're younger than me, but there's a good bit of the time in the 2000s and 90s that he was taking pot shots at his golf charity event at Philip Fulmer. Somebody came to him and said, "You need to get away from that." I'm really glad that happened because now he's celebrated. And if you met him, you would just love him. He was just maybe you have, but he was just an incredible man. And um,
You
because,
didn't like Philip Fulmer?
well, no, Philip Fulmer essentially well, as he would say it, I was laying in the hospital bed and they were working on my front, and Philip was stabbing me in the back. Um,
I
so,
like him then
so
already.
yeah, so that is what was going on, and but if you were a local reporter, the Newport Business Daily or whatever that might be, it was easy to go up to him if he were at some sort of golf event and say, "So what do you think about the Vols?" All right. So if you didn't get that big quote then, you'd say, "What do you think about the job Philip Fulmer is doing?" Done. Story written. Done.
Yeah,
And
imagine.
somebody came to him and he said, "You need to stop that. You need to," and I'm sure Philip Fulmer getting fired led to him being welcomed back in the university. And boy, he loves some Lane Kiffin. Why? Because he wasn't Philip Fulmer. So I'm glad. I was just thinking about that. Today that this is celebrated. And Pitt fans, I saw a picture of T-shirts saying the Johnny Majors Classic, and he would have been remembered as a bitter man had he not changed that direction. Instead, he should be remembered as a guy that should have won the Heisman. He finished second, won a national championship at Pitt, came to Tennessee, had one of the most memorable teams in 1985, those Sugar Balls of all time. I mean, other than the 98 team, that's probably second. Um, I just, we always have things we want to get to in terms of news, but I just want to go kind of off script, Amanda. And I'm just really glad he's remembered in the right way.
I mean, yeah, I think that's him changing his perspective, or whoever came to him and said, "Hey, you should really not do this anymore," deserves some kind of an award for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And now he would tell you what he thought still off the record. I will go ahead. That was,
Well, that's good. Good.
I'm going to share real quick my favorite Johnny Major story. May I do that?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm in the sorry to do Uncle Dave story time, but I'm in the facility, and this is like 2 days after Lane Kiffin's bolted. Okay. So he loved Lane Kiffin because he wasn't Philip Fulmer. And he came out and talked about publicly how much he liked Lane Kiffin. And then Lane Kiffin, after a year, goes, he's out. So
Right.
I don't know why Johnny Majors was in the facility, but I bumped into him and I said, I thought that I would say, "What do you think about Lane Kiffin?" And he would say, "Oh, you don't leave a university after a year. You've got to be somewhat loyal." No, he was still defending Lane Kiffin. And I said, "Coach is leaving after a year." And he goes, "Happens all the time." He said, "I got to tell you." And you go back to the 1980s, and this guy left after a year at Louisville. And you go back to the 1970s, and this guy left. And you go back to the 19. Okay, so he goes all the way back, Amanda, I kid you not, to the 1950s. Okay. So
Okay.
I'm driving home from the facility. I'm like, okay, well, I'll write a Johnny Majors reaction piece. I'm driving home, and it's a number I don't recognize. When I get home, I check my voicemail. He goes, "Dave, want to tell you there was a guy in the 1940s also that that he left after 2 years, and this Bob Jones at Army in 1930s left after 1 year. He was the most amazing football historian. I kid you not. He went back to the 1920s."
Wow. Just off the top of his head?
Well, now he went. Could he have looked it up? Maybe, but he went in front of me. He went all the way to the 50s. So I think
Yeah.
that it just popped in his head, and he had to call me immediately. I don't think he. Goodness, we I don't. Did we even have Google back in 2009? So I.
We had Google.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I don't think Johnny Majors was a regular user of Google.
Probably not. I would have to agree with that. I would seriously doubt that he was a regular user of Google in that time period.
Well, I wanted to share that story, and the other story that I just want to share quickly about Johnny Majors is we. I was going to be the co-host of the Johnny Majors show with Johnny Majors, and it was we had the affiliates lined up, and we had all the. Problem is nobody selling it. And I had two full-time jobs at the time. And but I remember he came up to me, and this is the guy in my formative years, okay, that's walking the sidelines of Neyland Stadium. That I would get up every Sunday morning and watch the Johnny Major show with John Ward. And so this is that guy. And he comes up to me, he goes, I can be a little long-winded. So you tell me. And I said, Coach, you want your answers to be 45 seconds. And out of that first pilot that we did the whole show, an hour show. He asked me to nudge him if he ever went longer than 45 seconds. I only had to nudge him one time. That clock, and that's coaching. When you tell somebody, you ask somebody to do something and just boom. I mean, I just he was an absolute treasure. So we've got an awful lot to get to. So let's do that. The down and dirty. I apologize, Amanda, for just kind of getting off kilter,
No,
but
I'm here for it.
I hope
I enjoyed it.
you would have you would have you wouldn't have liked him. You would have loved him. He was just I'm not over speaking this. He was just a really, really cool guy to be around.